So imagine you're 11 years old, just about to go into middle school. You don't really know who you are, who you want to be yet. I mean, sometimes you think, maybe I should go to Hot Topic and go through that emo phase. But, you get a letter one day, and that letter is written in emerald ink, and it says, well, I'm going to the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I mean, that sounds pretty cool, right? You get to be told by an all-knowing, old leather hat, like you're going to this house and you're going to get this community and your future is going to be great because it's destined. I mean, it's a nice image, it's really pretty, but how often are we actually told this is our life, this is correct, this is what we're actually going to be trying to do? I mean, we always face this pressure to decide what our life is going to be. And especially as kids, you're expected to, pick your major, maybe define your politics, maybe define how you want people to see you. I mean, heck, I can't even decide what Harry Potter house I'd be. So I really don't know how people would be able to decide their entire future. People turn to therapists. Some people turn to BuzzFeed quizzes. Personally, for types of potato, I am mashed potatoes, which is the superior starch. Let me just clarify that right now. But from your Harry Potter house to your major to your political party, you're trying to define you, maybe placing yourself in a box, maybe otherwise. But it's really tempting to play into these labels, these definitions and destinies that the world wants to ascribe to you. So I suggest and I propose an idea that we try to live undefined. Because maybe defining ourselves means limiting ourselves. So I hope you all remember Thomas Paine from U.S. history, guy who wrote Common Sense, but he also wrote this idea of tabula rasa, or the blank slate. So when you're born, you have no ascribed, things. You are blank. And then over time, the world molds you and society shapes you. But then you eventually come to this world where here you are today, very shaped, molded by society. But I wonder, why does society continue to tell you to keep defining yourself, keep extending that beyond society? Like, why do we define ourselves beyond what we're already pushed to do? So, in reality, most of us are stressed. Generation Z, this is like page 3 of Google search on Generation Z. So stressed out, poor mental health. In fact, Time magazine said 90% of Generation Z, our generation, is stressed due to maybe gun violence, maybe due to political tensions, maybe due to our own hopes for the future. That number seemed large at first, but a couple months ago, it really didn't seem that unrealistic. Recently, I was diagnosed with anxiety, and that was probably due to my future. I always wanted to be pushing and pushing and pushing for a larger future to make or break it. In 8th grade, I just was put in all regular classes, and I knew if I pushed as hard as I could probably get into honors classes, AP classes, and place myself on a track to what I thought of as success. And over time, that pressure I put on myself, that drive I once admired, turned into an obsession with grades, with the way I saw myself, and grades quantifiably defined me and my self-worth. Defining kids as in putting them into different tracks, putting them into different levels of classes, then if you're putting them into these different levels of classes, it's almost like estimating a kid's potential. Is it fair to do that coming right out of middle school? Is it fair to define kids based on test scores, or maybe how much they raise their hand, or maybe how much sleep they get at night? I was opened up to a whole new world when I looked into my TED Talk class, my Talking the Talk class. Senior year, first semester, I was placed in a class with kids I've never been in class with before. And you know what? It was the best class I've ever been in. People weren't competing for grades. People were encouraging each other and making sure each of us reached our individual goals. When you look at different ideas, this idea of creativity, of pushing ourselves, of individual goals. You think of maybe college, four-year university. Interestingly enough, in a Penn State study, almost 800 kids that they analyzed, they asked them why pick your major, why choose the path you want to choose. There were main reasons, and the main reasons mostly consisted of peer influence, family influence, an estimate of a job market, and maybe how difficult the major is. The last thing on a list of 20 sources was a general interest in the topic. That's crazy. It's telling me that people are pursuing things that are their values, their morals, their missions, that those things aren't constructed around something you believe in, something you have an interest in. Why is that? It made me want to turn the word undecided as a major, something that's obviously seen in our society as negative, this idea where they don't know what they're doing, they don't have a future, to exploratory. When you think exploratory, you think of Indiana Jones pursuing things he never knew. You think of SpaceX, Elon Musk pushing into bounds that you've never really thought of before. So why not make college a place where you're supposed to be learning, a place where you're supposed to be experimenting, something that's exploratory? This idea of creativity kind of brings me into my second point, that the more undefined we are, the more open to other people we are, but I'm going to push that to say open to other things. The idea is that ultimately we have this limited attention span, right? This idea where our bios in Twitter are 500 characters, words, or less. Some people choose to define themselves by maybe their gender, sexuality, maybe by the demographics that you are a part of. Some people choose to define it via politics. I actually talked with this woman, Laura, from the UK, and her country's undergoing this idea, Brexit, where these two political parties are battling it out in this war of attrition, talking about votes, people, money, and just getting ready to fight each other instead of actually collaborating, trying to come up with a unique solution, coming up with something that benefits all parties. You kind of look at people who are putting these politics and these political beliefs in their bios to define themselves. And in our limited attention span, it's really easy to cast those people aside and say, I'll just go with the people who already agree with me. Laura also talked about this idea of group mentality, how when we are alone, we are more inclined to join a group, to join people with people and assimilate to their beliefs and maybe forget our apathies. But why would we do that? Why limit ourselves from other people, the other side, the other argument, when we could actually be coming up with a unified solution? Why limit ourselves when we could open ourselves up to more people, be less ignorant, less biased, and actually come up with unique solutions? And that's something that's really creative. So, kind of brings me to my third point, that human innovation stems from uncertainty or a lack of definition. If we chose to define where space ends, then we'd also be choosing to limit our innovation, put a cap on our potential, and probably ignore discovery. That's not really what I want to do. If I limited myself to only eating mashed potatoes, I'd be forgetting a whole lot of other foods, and gosh darn it, I like French fries. So why not look to heroes, examples of people who didn't stay within their own bounds? This guy is my hero. He's been on a TED Talk stage quite a few times, and he is a business analytics guy. He worked there for a long time, and he woke up one morning and said, this world's missing something. That guy's like Sal Khan, who works in business analytics and then wakes up one morning and says, Jan, today is going to be the day that I make Khan Academy. Khan Academy has helped millions of people globally. Like, what? That's crazy. To wake up one day and say, I see that there's a problem here. Interesting. To wake up one day and say, I know someone else will take care of it. It's not enough. I regularly underestimate myself, and I know a lot of people in this world do. So we should probably be pushing ourselves to say, maybe I can apply something that I'm learning. Maybe I can choose to do something about this problem I see. When we define ourselves, we put a cap on creativity and put a cap on our potential to create solutions that can change people's minds and educations globally. Ultimately, when I was preparing for this TED Talk, I couldn't help but, question myself. When was I undefined? Whenever was I undefined? And, defining myself from my history, my society, and from birth, I kind of concluded that I never was truly undefined, truly capable of anything. But that's sad. Why are we if limiting potential is bad, then we should get uncomfortable with being defined, being uncomfortable with being placed in those boxes. I think that I want you guys to, try something out for me. Think to yourselves, how am I defined? Think to yourselves, how do I define myself? And how is that limiting me today? Maybe think about it today, tomorrow, when you get home. But tomorrow, I do want you to try to go out and actively fight against those definitions, actively fight against the boxes that are, holding you back. And when I started thinking like this, I kind of realized I don't really want a sorting hat anymore. Thank you.